Good evening, punters and racing fans, and welcome to this video where obviously I'm going to be looking at the Melbourne Cup on Tuesday, runner by runner guide. So literally I'm going to be going through each runner, having a look through their form, providing my thoughts, any sort of things that I've heard or read about each runner. I'll be making mention of those. So basically trying to give you guys a nice expansive look at the full field. I know there's plenty of other sources out there that like to do it, but if you're one of those people, it's a little bit similar to me where you prefer to watch/listen to someone breaking down the fields rather than reading about them, well, this is where you've come to the right place. So I'm going to do my best to go through each one. I will provide my early tips, first four selections for the race later in the video. So if you do just want to check those out, that is more than okay. You can just skip ahead of the video. Probably say it'd be right at the end, so probably go about 2 or 3 minutes out from the end thereabouts. I'd say that's whereabouts I'll be giving you my tips for the cup and whatnot. So, but this is more a video, as I always do with some other videos, that I look at each runner and I guess present my thoughts, and then you guys can just use them to do it however you want. You might have runners in mind that let's say you might be pretty keen on backing Very Elegant, and then you might hear my views, and if it sounds quite good to you, you can then go and back it. That's sort of the idea of this video. Obviously, I'll be saying who I think wins, but it's by no means a video of me telling you what you should and shouldn't bet on. I don't really believe in that. I think it's a sport where, it's a great sport where you can sort of get the satisfaction of finding the winner yourself. I know that I definitely do, but also at the same time, I know that as a tipster myself, that when I see other tipsters or form analysts tipping the same thing as me, it instills me with more confidence. So this is sort of where I come in with it for you guys out there. But I really appreciate you tuning in the video. Obviously, got quite a lot of you have a look at the Everest video, and you also gave your thoughts and your selections. So please do that again down below. I'd really appreciate you guys to let me know who you're backing in the Melbourne Cup, and also give a first four if you would like to do that as well. We won't so much be, I guess, looking at the other races this video. I'll be doing that probably tomorrow, or maybe I might even do it just after this video. So go and check that out, where I'll be looking at the whole meeting and providing first four selections for each race. I do this every single week, but obviously with Cup Week, I'm going to be doing this every couple of days. So if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. And obviously leave a like on the video and your comments down below. Would really appreciate that. This is, as I always say, your forum to have your thoughts. If you want any of my thoughts on anything, even though I'm giving them to you in this race, literally with every runner. So if you somehow manage to find something that I haven't picked out that you want my thoughts on, then by all means leave it down below. But I'm going to do my best to sort of give sort of a good breakdown of each runner. But I'm going to do it as quickly as possible, because there are obviously a lot to go through. We've got the 24 to be exact. So got to get through them relatively quickly. So I'll do the best I can. But anyway, moving on to the video, without any further ado, obviously, we all well and truly know the Cup will be starting at 3 p.m. tomorrow on Tuesday. Track currently rated a good 4. I don't think that'll change over the next couple of days. There's not really a lot of rain forecasted here in Melbourne, so I don't think we'll have to worry about working on a soft track, which is great. It's fantastic. I obviously think that working on a good 4 track, it just has a level playing field, and we'll be able to see the best horse on the day win, which is what we want to see. 3,200 metres, obviously 2 miles. Really looking forward to the race. I think this is a really strong edition of the Cup, and it often is. But there has been I think probably last year's Cup was probably, I don't think it was as strong as this one. Obviously 2018 was quite a good edition, but just some of the names in this, because I think the Australian contingent this year is probably stronger than it has been in some time. Now, I know Vow and Declare won it last year with the low weight, but I suppose going into the race, there wasn't that too much hope for the Australians. Obviously, there was some thoughts that Surprise Baby and Still Prince could run well, but I think it's even stronger this year. I mean, the likes of Very Elegant, she's a multiple Group 1 winner, and she's really progressive and seems to be getting better each time she steps up in distance, so she's got an extremely strong chance. And then you have the likes of Surprise Baby, Finch as well, obviously former UK runner, but is now running here in Australia. Warning, even the Derby winner, seems to be making some, has been really trained for this type of race here. So it's a very good addition. I think it's a really good race I'm looking forward to. So any further ado, number 1, Anthony Van Dyke in the field, obviously top of the market, 58.5 kilos. So he's got to carry the big weight, but look, he did so in brilliant fashion. He carried the same weight in the Caulfield Cup, and he was a good thing beaten that day. I'm convinced if it was on a good track, he would have won. And also, if he didn't draw wide, he would have won the Caulfield Cup as well. But I know that he was obviously targeted mainly for the Caulfield Cup because they knew that it's obviously an easier race to win with the bigger weight. Historically, obviously, particularly over the last sort of decade even, that has been, but particularly the last 5 years, it's been a horse that's down in the weights, generally a European type horse, so he does fit that type of mould, but generally the 3 or 4 year old that comes down here and wins it. So he obviously is a 5-year-old, but he's obviously Derby winner, and he's a very good horse, and he was really good in that Caulfield Cup run. I think that I think he can still run a big race. I don't think that I think expect him to be the top half of the field. I don't see how he'll run a terrible race because he's already carried the weight, handled it. So, and he is a high class horse. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's right in the finish. I just don't think that he can win with that big weight. But he is much better drawn this time around. Barrier number 3, Hugh Bowman rides. So he'll get every opportunity. And I do think that he can finish in front of Very Elegant. Obviously, Very Elegant does go up just a half a kilo in the weights, but I think coming back onto the firmer track will probably suit Anthony Van Dyke a little bit better, and he obviously will be fitter having that first up run now, whereas Very Elegant has been rock hard fit now throughout her preparation. So Anthony Van Dyke, very good chance in the race despite the big weight. Avilius, he has to carry 57. I thought his run was really good in the Caulfield Cup. He made good ground from the back late. He's obviously been here and done this before. He was in the Cup last year, and he wasn't too bad, I thought. He definitely wasn't a disgrace, so we know he can see out the distance okay. Now, I actually think that he's low-level flying. I really do think that he's actually running quite well at the moment. His second 2 starts back to colding was really impressive, the way he hit the line, and I actually liked his Caulfield Cup run, so I wouldn't be surprised if he runs a lot better than a 51-1 price, and he does finish in the top half of the field, number 2, Avilius, and barrier 10 looks to be a pretty good barrier as well. Moving on to horse number 3, obviously last year's Melbourne Cup winner, Vow and Declare. Jamie Moth takes the ride, so really good opportunity for Jamie. Really happy that he's getting his opportunity to do that. Look, I honestly do think he's massively over the odds of the 61. Everyone's writing him off just guess because he's running at the big weight for starters. Obviously last year he just carried the low weight, but this year he's got to carry 57 with the penalty on the handicap. And obviously he's been quite disappointing so far as preparation, but he is a horse that gets better obviously the further into the prep he goes, and he's got a terrific 4th up record. He's got 2 starts for a win and a placing, and he obviously has been here and done this before. He's run over the 2 miles, so there's no question there on how he'll go the distance, so we don't have to worry about that. And I mean, looking back through his form, I mean, what was it, last preparation when he finished, he went into the Cup for, hang on, where are we? Yeah, so he went into the Cup at 3rd up, so, he obviously got those 2 runs out the way first and foremost last preparation, including the 2nd in the Caulfield Cup and the 4th in the Turnbull. But he comes into this, I think, definitely, I definitely think he can run a good enough race. I know he's got to carry that big weight, but at least he's been here and done it before and he's won it. And I don't think he can win, but I do think that he'll be running a good race. So you definitely can't discourage him at the $61. So definitely think that he could be running a good enough race. Would I back him to win? Nah, probably not. But so I can't really entertain you betting on him, but I do think that he's probably a better chance than his price suggests. Now, moving on to horse number 4, and it is Master of Reality. Obviously, last year came 2nd in the race, was relegated down to 4th after a protest. He looked all over a winner at the 100 metres and then the 50-metre pole, and he just narrowly got nabbed late when he just wandered about a little bit on the track under Frankie Dettori. Now, there's a lot of conjecture around that. I know a lot of punters blame Frankie for that. Look, it's really hard to tell whether it was from Frankie's riding and the way he was trying to get it home, and whether he ran out like that or if he did it under his own steam by struggling to get the 3200. I think it was a bit of a combination of both personally, but that's a different matter, and it's probably a conversation that has been spoken about for a year. But everything will be all forgotten if people go into him again this year at the $23. Now he's got to carry 56 kilos. Last year in the race he carried where are we? He carried 55.5, so he only goes up a kilo from half a kilo from last year. He's had the 4 runs since then. He finished a 6th at Curragh in the Vintage Cup over 2800. Finished second in the Curragh Cup behind Twilight Payment, who he meets here again, and then he finished second at Delphi in the Irish St Ledger. Now Master Reality, that form line it's been strong enough, but I don't know if it's necessarily stronger than some of these other ones in the race. But then he came, he won nicely the start after over the 2800. So he comes off of that run. That run was back 21 days ago, so 3 weeks ago. He's come straight over here since then. So he's coming in with some winning form, and obviously, like I said, he has been here and done it before. So I think the $23 is over the odds about him, and I really do think that he's well drawn. Ben Mellon in the saddle now. He's obviously been extremely unlucky in past years. In Melbourne Cups, I think that he's riding really well at the moment, Benny, and he'll definitely give this horse every opportunity. And like I said, he's been here and done it before. He was very close to winning it last year. No reason why he can't do it again at the $23. Number 5, the Cox Plate winner, Sir Dragon A. Obviously, Glenn Bossman maintains the ride. That was a terrific Cox Plate win. You can take nothing away from that. Big query for me is now stepping out to the Melbourne Cup 3,200 metres distance. For me, I think it's probably going to be a bridge too far for him. I think he's run and won his race. He came here, targeted at the Cox Plate. They were targeting that race from the outset. They were always, I believe, going to run in the Cup, and that's why he's here. But I think that with him, he obviously has come out and done his job, and this is probably a bit of an afterthought. I still think he can run a good race, so I wouldn't be surprised. If he could stay out the distance, he would be right in the finish, but it is a big query. He's going from 2,000 metres up to 3,200. It's a massive step up in distance. I mean, the furthest he's run in his career to date, he did run in the 2,900 metres St Ledger a couple of years back behind, last year behind Logicans, Sir Ronald Priestley and Nayef Road. So I mean, the form hasn't been extremely strong out of that, and he finished a 5th in the Derby behind Anthony Van Dyke, Japan, and Mahmood. So look, that was over 2,400. So can he stay out the 3-2? He possibly could. He obviously has gotten out 2,800, but I don't know. For me, I just think that he's run his race, and he's a bit unders at the $9.50. I think he's more like a $20 chance for me personally. So. I think it's just that a little bit of market reactionary to the fact that he won the Cox Plate. But Glenn Boss is obviously the big race rider, and you never know what sort of magic he can come up with. So, but for me, I just think that there's others that probably have a stronger chance than he does. Move on to horse number 6, Twilight Payment. John McNeil takes the ride here. He's obviously was extremely unlucky not to win the Empire Rose on Saturday. So he's going to be really looking to get that big race win in this spring, and I really hope he does so because he really deserves it. He's been riding quite well throughout the whole year and been extremely consistent through the calendar year, this previous racing calendar year. So Twilight Payment comes into this race off a 3rd last start in the Irish St Ledger behind Search for a Song of Fujairah Prince. So a little bit of different form line there. Look, he has obviously gotten out to the 2,800 on multiple occasions. He's even gotten out to the 3,000 metres when he ran at Long Irons in Riyadh. And, look at that race there. Obviously, Prince of Aran ran in that. And then he finished 11th here in the Melbourne Cup last year. So he obviously has been here, done it before. He's run over the distance. It wasn't too bad of a run there. He obviously, he settled back in the field and ran on pretty nicely on that. He led them up last year, Twilight Payment. And then obviously was overcome late. But look, I think that he has probably come back a better horse this time around. He's obviously going to be more mature. He's now an 8-year-old, so he's been around for a long time. But I mean, he's had the 30 starts in his career, and he's been in the money 23 times out of the 30. So he is a very reliable horse. And $27, probably a little bit over the odds about him. And I know there has been a bit of talk around that he's come to Werribee and done pretty well, and he's put in some good work down the track there. So, look, I don't see why. He obviously beat Master of Reality at Curragh recently in the Curragh Cup of 2,800 metres. So, pretty nice form to bring into a race like this. And he also won at Curragh prior to the Currie Cup, beating the Vintage Cup when he beat Barbados and Sovereign on that occasion. So he's coming in with pretty strong form. His last 4 starts, he hasn't missed a placing. So all over 2,800 metres. So he really couldn't be coming in with much better form, and I think he can run a good race. Number 6, Twilight Payment. Number 7, Very Elegant, obviously our superstar mare from across from New Zealand. Been training over here with Chris Waller for some time, and she's been terrific. I mean, she just continues to, I guess, raise the bar. I mean, she's always had this ability, always had this talent. We have known this for some time, but there was always that knock that she was just a wet tracker. But then she come out last time out, won the Caulfield Cup. Prior to that, she obviously won the Turnbull on a good track, and that was a superb win. It was a tough win as well, and I knocked her a little bit for the Caulfield Cup. I did think that she'd run well, but I just wasn't expecting her to win because I thought at the time that she ran a really hard race at Flemington the start prior, and it might have taken a bit out of it, but she backed it up and won again at Caulfield. That was on a soft track, so it was to suit her nicely, but she managed to hold out Anthony Van Dyke there. But you can't take nothing away from the performance. She continues to win and continues to relish each step up in distance that she has. She now gets to the 3,200 though, so this is going to be a big test for her. And I do think she's probably the right price. I think $11 is fair considering what she's done so far and being a Caulfield Cup winner. She's probably, with the weight, it's not the worst, but she probably, I would have given her a better chance if she was around that 54, 53 mark. Obviously, she was penalised by winning the Caulfield Cup. And again, similarly with what I said about Sir Dragonet, I feel like that was her race. Now, I know that the Caulfield Cup form into the Melbourne Cup form usually suggests that they will run well. Obviously, we have Vow and Declare finish second in the Caulfield Cup last year and then come out and win the Melbourne Cup. So, very possible that Very Elegant can get it done. Barry's okay. I don't think 15's that bad. Should be able to find sort of a spot around midfield from there. Should be a few horses around her that will roll forward. And like I said, she's very progressive. She continues to get better with the more obstacles and hurdles, I suppose, that get thrown her way. So I think she can definitely run a good race. Mustajir, well, look, he's at $91. He obviously was here and did it last year. He was given a real strong chance last year in the race, and he was very disappointing. He finished right back in the field, 23rd out of 24 runners. He's since obviously come back, and he was just fair. In his first preparation back, he was terrific back in the autumn. He obviously won the Parramatta Cup. He then finished second in the Tancred, second in the Sky Idol, Master of Wine, second and Very Elegant in the Tancred. He then went to the Sydney Cup, finished 5th behind Etta James in the Chosen One. So he has had that 3,200 metre run since then. It was on a heavy track. Look, he was 8th in the Caulfield Cup. He didn't run too badly there. He sort of got home quite nicely from back in the field a little bit there. He was obviously sitting just worse in midfield. And look, he got to the line just fairly. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs better than the $91 suggests. I don't think he can finish top 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's sort of towards that top half of the field. I do think that he is better than what the $91 does suggest, though. Moving on to horse number 9, and it is Stratum Albion, Willie Mullins' horse. Jordan Child's riding, really good for Jordan to get the crack on this horse, and I actually do think this horse has a pretty decent chance. I think the second last start in the Lonsdale Cup behind Emberhar has been a little bit looked over. I think that's really good form. Emberhar, obviously, one of the strongest stayers in Europe. He obviously recently has gone to stud, and he is a really good horse, and I think that performance in itself merits for him to be around probably that $20, $30 mark for me. I do think that he's well over the odds at the 46s, and he looks to be really progressive. That was over a 3,200 metre distance, so he's run out the distance nicely once before, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And he comes into this off a third up, and he's got pretty good form third up as well. So he obviously has had 3 weeks between runs, which I think is perfect. And he's going to come into this really nicely. And I wouldn't be surprised if he runs a big bolter of a race. So he is a very good chance at the $46. And I really do think that if you are keen on it, I can push for you to back him for the win. I don't just think he's a place for chance. I think that he has every chance to be running a good race here, and he's definitely been put in wrongly at the markets. Now, Dashing Willoughby went into the Caulfield Cup with a little bit of hope, and he went absolutely flying in the speed, and he tailed completely out of the race. He was pulled up, and on that occasion, he comes into this will be much better for him coming up to the 3,200, I believe, and I think he'll be much better. Technically, he's sort of coming into this third up. He's had just a few freshen ups, really. He's had a 47-day freshen up when he was in Europe, and he went to the Lonsdale Cup behind Strata Melbourne and Bahar, and he finished fourth on that occasion. And then he obviously had a 57-day freshen up leading into the Caulfield Cup, and he went way too quick. I mean, that's all it was with that, really, and dropped right out of the race. Look, can he bounce back to win a Melbourne Cup? I don't think he can. I'd be really shocked if he could. But, you know, look, he's probably one of those runners where he'll be out in front running along. He'll be much better suited to a Melbourne Cup tempo than a Caulfield Cup tempo. But, you know, I can't see him winning. So I think that the $81 is probably fair enough. But it's saying that, it wouldn't shock me if he does lead for a bit longer than what he did in the Caulfield Cup anyway, and only gets overhauled late. Horse number 11, Finch. Well, gee, there's a lot around him at the moment. He was an awesome effort at the Caulfield Cup. He was really good in the Turnbull. Excellent in the Chelmsford first up over the, what he ran over there? 1,600 metres. So he really has a real nice preparation coming to this Melbourne Cup, and I think $18 is a good price. I think that's the fair price about him as well. But he's definitely got a nice chance in this one. He comes in this fourth up, so he's rock hard fit now. He's got a couple of good runs under his belt, and I think he'll be right up to running well in this. He finished 7th in the race last year, obviously, and you know, on that occasion he carried the 54, carries the 54.5 here. Has James McDonald in the cell. Chris Wall obviously is on fire. He's winning absolutely everything at the moment, so it's hard to go against him, and I really do think he's got real strong claims in this Cup this year, and definitely I've seen a lot of people around very keen on his chances, and I do not blame them because I do think he's got a very good chance in this race. Moving on to horse number 12, Prince of Aran. Obviously he has been the multiple Melbourne Cup placing horse. Comes in this nicely, obviously ran really well in the Caulfield Cup, and the regular rider Michael Walker, he stepped off him for Dashing Willoughby, which was why that coming into the Cup I was really keen on Dashing Willoughby, because I thought it's an interesting decision for him to jump off Prince of Aran when you know what you're going to get out of him. He comes to Australia and runs really well, and he's been placed in the Melbourne Cup twice, but he chose to get off him for Dashing Willoughby. Now, you know, I know Michael Walker explained on SEN Track here in Victoria that it was on SEN Track, it was on Waitley with SEN, that the reason he did that is more so for going forward, because Dashing Willoughby is actually going to stay here in Australia after this Melbourne Cup run, and I guess going forward he wanted to continue that relationship, and he's obviously got connections with the owners that have bought him here in Australia, so that's obviously one side of it. But then also he does think that he's a horse that's quite progressive going forward. It was a tough decision. So I do think that while Jamie Carr has now taken the ride, and obviously he's $11 in the market, I do think 11s is probably a fraction of the odds. I know he was awesome in that Caulfield Cup run, and that was a terrific effort. And he is obviously quite reliable. We know he's run over this distance range a couple of times. He was disappointing on a couple of occasions in the UK. He finished third behind AF Road in the Sagaro Stakes. That was a couple of months ago at Newcastle on the synthetic track over 3,200. Then he went to the Ascot Gold Cup, and he was well back in the field on that occasion when Stradivarius absolutely brained them, and Cross Counter and AF Road win that race as well. But then went to the September Stakes of 2,400, was beaten by Enable, which is, you know, there's no shame in finishing third to Enable. And then he obviously ran what he ran in the Caulfield Cup. So he definitely is in nice form. He really runs a bad race. I mean, looking back through his form, he's only had a sort of a 6th and an 11th, which that 11th was in the Hong Kong Vase at Sha Tin. But looking back besides that, he's finished in the top 4 in 8 of his last 10 starts. So, I mean, he really is a consistent horse, and he's a horse who could definitely take it each way. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's right there in the finish. Jamie Carr, obviously, in really good form as well, especially after last week's 4 on Cox Plate Day. Now, Surprise Baby, he is an interesting one coming into this. He was terrific first up in the Fian at Moonee Valley. He finished second, just narrowly beaten by Humidor on that occasion. That was a top run, and I was convinced that after that he'd be ready to go in this Melbourne Cup. And then obviously went to the Turnbull. He was just fair there. I don't think that was that bad of a run, but I like that he's been freshened up now. He comes into this off a near month break, and I think he's going to be ready to run a big race. I do think 950 is probably touch unders. There's probably a few others I would rate as a better chance than him, but he's definitely one of Australia's top chances. And I mean, for me, the fact that he's stronger in the market than Very Elegant is probably a little bit disrespectful to Very Elegant, because she's coming out of being a Caulfield Cup winner. I know it Surprise Baby did last year, but the form from Derry Elegant is better this preparation than what Surprise Babies is. So I think a lot of people looking into last year's race, perhaps thinking that, oh, yep, he's going to run the same again. There's no guarantees on that. But look, obviously, like I said, he finished 5th in the race last year, so he was right in the finish. He ran home really nicely, ran a top race, and I don't think there'll be any reason why he can't run it again. Just think he's a little bit under the odds. But Craig Williams does take the ride. Obviously, key jockey booking, and he was terrific on Saturday, Craig, riding in good form. Now, number 14, King of Leah Grants, is another horse who I think is well over the odds at the $41. He, I think, is coming into this really nicely. It was a good third in the Geelong Cup behind Steel Prince and Ladon de V. I love that run. I thought that he just really tracked up nicely on the inside. He just seemed to peak on his run a little bit, and I think it's just that fitness, that lack of fitness, what came him undone. Whereas obviously King of Leah Grants, Steel Prince, the winner, had a bit more under his belt. But I love that run, and obviously he's ticked off the 3200 metre performance 4 by winning the Adelaide Cup. He was really touted as a good horse going into the Melbourne Cup last year. Didn't quite get into it, but since then he's really knuckled down and won some good races. Obviously, he likes the Adelaide Cup. He won the Roy Higgins over 2600 in the autumn, beating King of Leah Grants, De Beer, and Naval Warfare. Not the strongest field, but not beating King of Leah Grants, beating De Beer at Naval Warfare. Obviously not the strongest field, but he still had to beat them, and he did so there. And then he obviously won the LA Cup, beating Good Idea and Shouting the Mob, which wasn't the strongest edition of the LA Cup, but he did win it really nicely on that occasion. So he then obviously finished second the Ramsden behind Ocean X, just to get the automatic entry in. So he does find himself in the race. He's pretty well on the way. It's 53.5 kilos, and I do think that Danny O'Brien just might have trained him up nicely for this one. He just seems to have the right preparation coming in to this race here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he runs much better than his $41 suggests. Now, moving on to number 15, the Superstar Russian Camelot, obviously beaten as a real strongly backed favourite in the Cox Plate. No disgrace in the run. He was sort of, I guess, racing at a gallop that didn't really suit him nicely. He had to spend a lot of petrol from that outside barrier to get across, find a slot on the speed. I thought that was the right decision. A lot of people look back at the race now and they go, oh, he should have gone back in the field and run on like Sir Dragonet did, for example. But the problem is with that is that he would have I guess he would have needed some luck. He would have had to hope for that strong tempo, and that was something they weren't willing to risk. They wanted to have him up closer to the speed where he actually got to in the end. Now, he obviously had to work hard to get there, which is maybe what took a little bit out of the gas tank for him. But I do think that he's a horse that prefers to roll along, and he will be much better suited being at this Melbourne Cup tempo where he's just able to roll along and sort of build himself into the race slowly from the back. And he'll obviously appreciate coming back to Flemington where he'll get his chance to wind up and get through his gears. And but he has let the punters down twice now, so I'll be surprised if people still stick with him. But he obviously is a better price now at the $12. He's definitely one of Australia's top chances. I do think that he'll be racing somewhere around that sort of top 8 mark. I do think that that's where he'll be. Can he win? From my perspective, no. I wouldn't be surprised if he does win, but I do think that there's just others that seem to be a lot better than he is. I was expecting him to, I guess, I'm trying to get how to say it really. I mean, he was obviously beaten in the Caulfield Stakes by Arcadia Queen, and then he backed up again into the Cox, and he was expected to go close. A lot of people declaring that he wasn't going to lose, and he did lose there. So I don't know. I do think that he has been slightly overhyped, Russian Camelot. I do believe that, and that he's been sort of touted as the next big thing since he won the Derby. And look, I was a big fan of him. I backed him in the Derby. I backed him the start prior at Pakenham when he bolted in. He obviously got smashed into a $1.35 favourite. I got on him pretty early that around the $1.80 mark, so I knew of his ability and his talent. But look, at the end of the day, he's obviously been prepped for this race, but I do also think that he was prepped for the Cox Plate as well. So I just think that maybe that was his run last time out, and I think maybe he's just starting to peak on his best, but wouldn't surprise me if he runs a good race again. Number 16, Steel Prince. Well, obviously Geelong Cup winner. He was really good winning that on that occasion. Willie Pike takes the ride. He's good in the weights again. He was quite good in last year's Melbourne Cup, finishing 9th. Was impressed with that performance, and he's come back pretty well. He obviously last couple of starts have been quite impressive in the naturalism and the Bar Cummings leading into that race in the Geelong Cup, and look, does he have the right form this time round? Yeah. Look, it's I can argue it's good enough. I do think Le Don de Vie, if that horse made it into the Melbourne Cup, he'd be running pretty well. So can't really knock that performance, but do think $34 is probably his right price. So I don't think he's good enough to win a cup, but wouldn't surprise me if he runs a good race. The Chosen One's an interesting one. He continues to get overlooked, this horse, and he was really good finishing third in the Caulfield Cup, obviously behind Very Elegant and Anthony Van Dyke. He ran home really nicely there on that occasion. He obviously ran in the Melbourne Cup last year, finished 17th. He was back in the field. I do think that maybe the Caulfield Cup was his run and his race. I'm not saying he's going to run poorly here, but I just think that there's others that, and I might be being stupid overlooking him again, but I just think that was his peak run, this preparation in that Caulfield Cup on the soft track. He comes back onto a firm track, which it isn't necessarily the worst thing for him. He has wins on a good track, but for me, I just think that last start was his peak performance, his preparation. So no knock on him, and he obviously is coming in with quite a nice run under his belt in that race there. But I just think that there's a few others that are quite clearly ahead of him. So for me, I can't really give him too much chance to win per se. Now, number 18, Ash Run, obviously the winner of the Hotham Handicap on the Saturday, yesterday. And he was terrific. I was obviously mentioned it in my preview that obviously he ran nicely in the John Cup first up, where was beaten by Steel Prince, Le Don de Vie, and King of League. He was always going to get better over the trip, and he proved that last time out yesterday over the 2500, where he burst down the outside, finished off nicely. What I liked about that run is he just seemed to be getting better the further he got through the line. He took a little bit of time to get up to him. He always looked to be travelling nicely in the run, and it just looked like a matter of time before he was going to get past him, but he didn't quite do it until very late. But I love the way he just continued to motor through the line, and he just seemed like he was going to really be appreciating of getting up to a 3200 metre gallop. Obviously coming down from Europe, and he obviously has run predominantly in France. And looking back through his form, I mean, he's got form over this distance, and he's run pretty well in some top races. So there's no real reason why he can't run well enough, I think, Ash Run. And he probably, look, I think he's a bit unders. I think 21s is probably a bit too short for him. I don't expect him to win per se, but wouldn't surprise me if he runs well enough off the quick backup. I think he looks like to be a horse that could probably handle it, but more often than not, the Hotham form has not been, I think since Shocking won, it has not been done. So I don't think that we're going to be seeing a horse, and I know there's a lot of talk out there about having horses backing up into the race when they probably don't have too much of a chance. But moving on to Warning, obviously the Derby winner. Look, he has always struck me as a horse that would be a good Melbourne Cup horse in time. Is he ready to do it now? Well, the age profile suggests yes, as a 4-year-old, but I do think that he'll be a horse that will come back next year if they target the Melbourne Cup again, where he could go real close. I maybe think this is going to be one run too short, but I will be watching him on Tuesday and just sort of noting on how he runs and seeing whether, I guess how he gets through the line. Very similarly to Surprise Baby last year for me. I thought that Surprise Baby could run well, but I was more looking at the run and then waiting for this year and going, he'll be a horse that's going to be really progressive towards the Melbourne Cup this year, which he will be. I've got no doubt in my mind that Surprise Baby will be running well, so don't take that, what I said earlier about him not being a chance to win. I do think he's a chance. I just thought he's a bit under the odds considering how his form has been leading up into the race. That was the point. Now, Warning has been pretty well backed a couple of times in his last few runs, more so before the Caulfield Cup, but he was a $21 chance in the Caulfield Cup, and he had a bit of support in the Turnbull when he went round at 61 to 1, but particularly last time at the Caulfield Cup, there was a few people around that did generally think he had a good chance to win. I thought he was quite disappointing, to be honest. I thought, for him to be confident about him going into a Melbourne Cup, he would have had to run much better. So he's got the age profile, he's got the weight, and I do think that he'd be a horse that will really appreciate the step out to the 3200 metres, but I do think this is probably a year too soon for him. I'm expecting that he'll run better in this race next year if he come back and run next year. Number 20, Etta James, she obviously is a horse that has run and won over the 3200 metres before. She's an 8-year-old now, and I didn't mind her running the Moonee Valley Cup. I don't think that's the right form coming into this race, but she obviously, she surprised many by winning the Sydney Cup earlier this year, where she knocked off the Chosen One and Raheen House, and there's no reason why she can't do that again, really. I mean, 91 to 1's probably over the odds. Do I think she can win? No. But I do think she'll run better. So, I mean, when I say better than the price, I mean that the market has her finishing last, for example. That's sort of what I'm getting at. She's one of the outsiders, which means they're probably saying she's one of the outsiders to win. Probably right. I don't think she can win, but I do think she'll run much better than the market suggests. I think she probably could be more deserving around a $60, $70 mark. To where she'll finish. Now, number 21, one of the favourites, Tiger Moth. Look, I was very keen on this horse. So obviously, I had a bet on this horse as soon as he finished second in that Derby, Santiago. I had a bet on both of them because I felt like that was the form line coming into the Melbourne Cup that would be really well suited. And in the end, he came out, won the Killerton Stakes, and I got even more confident about him. Now, I was disappointed that Santiago's not going to be able to run in the race, so that made me reevaluate who I was going to back. But I'm still with Tiger Moth on the early markets, so I'm really keen on him, his chances coming in. Obviously, the more support he has had in the market, the more confident I've grown. He's got just the perfect age profile as a 4-year-old, but a 3-year-old in Europe. That comes here with the lightweight, Kerry McAvoy riding, who he obviously has been a big race rider. He's come off another Everest win, which is the exact formula that he had from when he won on cross county. He won on the Everest with Redzel in 2018. Then he came out and won the Melbourne Cup in 2018 with cross counter. So I think that he can do that again because this horse has a very, very similar profile to that of cross counter, and I think that this will be the one where it'll run really well. Obviously, Il Paradiso was probably a good thing beaten last year, much to my dismay. I was absolutely furious. I was filthy because I thought if Master Reality didn't lay in, he probably would have got up and won. But as a racing fan, I was ecstatic that Vow and Declare won. I remember ruining losing the money, but then I also was ecstatic that Vow and Declare won. So he's obviously got an awesome chance, and from all reports, he's absolutely flying at Werribee. He's really ready for this race, and obviously just the barriers are a real concern. He's come out in the market since drawing barrier 23. Kerry McAvoy's going to get him in a good spot. He probably will take him back in the field from there, I reckon. I would be surprised if he tries to roll towards the front from there. But number 22, Ocean X, obviously she ran pretty well in this race last year. And, she comes in this off a third in the Moonee Valley Cup. I'm not sure if her form's quite right. I do think that she probably would prefer a wet track. That would give her better chances. But she did obviously win the Ramsden to book her spot early in this race. But I just think that there's other chance to race, so I can't really see her winning it despite being down the weights. 51.5 kilos does seem to suit her nicely. But a horse that I do think's probably got a better chance down the weights is number 23, Miami Bound. Now, she was really good winning the Moonee Valley Cup. She bounced back to form on that occasion. But similarly as Ocean X, I do think she needs a soft track, though. And Persan, though, obviously, he's been in really good form, and he comes in really nicely at the weights here, the 51 kilos. Michael D's going to be riding. I think he's got every chance to run well enough in this. He just continues to raise that bar and get better and better each time. And I really do believe that he's probably one that's been overlooked a little bit. $31 is probably about his right price. So I probably could even argue that he could be around that 26 just because he's got that winning form. He hasn't finished outside of the top 3 in his last 10 runs. So he really has been terrific, and he's been up for a long time. He's got rock hard fitness on his side. So I wouldn't be surprised if Michael D springs a bit of a shock from barrier 20 and tries to roll forward on him and try and get up there, and know that he could potentially use his race fitness on his side to run a good race. So I don't think he can win, but I wouldn't be surprised if he runs well enough to be sort of possibly even in a top 8. Sort of, I'll definitely think he's a top 10 chance though for sure. Now moving on into my selections for the Melbourne Cup. So, look, I've gone with, obviously, I've got to stick with Tiger Moth as my top selection. Obviously, the barrier concerns me a little bit, but I've gone on him early off that Irish Derby victory, so I've got to stick with him. So he goes on top for me. Ahead of number 4, Master Reality, in for second. He's my second selection, obviously very close winning it last year. He comes in with a similar profile this year, and I think he can go close once again. In for third, I've got Anthony Van Dyke, obviously terrific run in the Caulfield Cup, and I think that he'll run well once again, stepping out to the 3,200 metres. And the horse that I've got in for fourth is number 11, Finch, who I think is really well profiled for this race and has a perfect preparation leading in with Chris Waller's form as well. With him just continue to train winners, I think he's got a very good chance to go close again. Now, as for a first 4 selection, obviously they are my top 4, but I am going to be having a box first 4, so I'll be telling you that just a second. So look, with the first four, I've gone with 7 horses that I'm going to be putting in a box first four. So I've gone with number 1, Anthony Van Dyke, number 4, Master of Reality, number 6, Twilight Payment. I've left Very Elegant out. I was going to put her in there and make it an 8. So if you want to go even wider, you can put Very Elegant in there. I don't think that's any issue. I left Strata Melbourne out, which I could have put in as well, but so that was an honourable mention. I've got number 11, Finch, in there, number 12, Prince of Aran, and then I've got number 15, Russian Camelot, and then number 21, Tiger Moth. So that's 1, 4, 6, 11, 12, 15, and 21. $84 will get 10%. I reckon that'll work out pretty nicely. So thank you for tuning in. All the best with your Melbourne Cup. Hopefully you can find the winner, and hopefully you can find plenty of winners on the day. So tune into my video very shortly, which I'll be putting up, looking at the whole program and doing my tips. So thanks for tuning in.